she'll come back. Not because you begged, not because you chased, not because you proved yourself. She'll come back because absence has a way of teaching lessons that words never can. Right now, you might feel like she moved on, like she forgot what you were to her, like your silence meant nothing. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. Silence is reflection. Silence is where realization begins. At first, she enjoys the freedom. She tells herself she's better off. She laughs louder, posts more, pretends harder. On the outside, it looks like relief, but inside something feels off. Because when you were there, you were consistent, you were grounded, you were predictable in a way that felt safe. And when that disappears, the mind starts replaying memories it once ignored. She remembers how you showed up when it mattered, how you didn't disappear during discomfort, how you stayed calm when emotions ran high. And now, in the absence of your presence, she feels the weight of comparison. Every conversation feels shallow. Every new connection feels rushed because depth is rare and she tasted it with you. You see, attraction isn't built in chaos. It's built in certainty. And when you stopped trying to convince her, something shifted. When you stopped explaining yourself, when you stopped reacting, when you stopped chasing clarity from someone who wasn't offering it, that's when respect quietly returned. At first, she tells herself it's temporary, that she'll adjust, that she doesn't need you. But nights are honest, and silence has a way of amplifying thoughts she's been avoiding. She starts wondering why you didn't fight harder, why you didn't beg, why you didn't collapse. And the answer unsettles her because it suggests strength. Strength is intimidating when someone realizes they underestimated it. She starts to miss the version of herself she was with you. More grounded, more real, less performative. She misses being understood without explaining, misses being chosen without pressure. And slowly, almost unwillingly, regret creeps in, not loud, not dramatic, but persistent. This is where the shift happens. She realizes you weren't replaceable. You were rare. And rare things aren't noticed immediately. They're noticed once they're gone. When she comes back, because yes, emotionally or physically, she does, it won't be the same woman who left. She'll be quieter, more careful, less impulsive, because loss matures people faster than comfort ever could. She'll come back more serious, because now she understands the cost of taking someone for granted. She'll come back more loyal, because she's seen what's out there, and it wasn't what she imagined. She'll come back more intentional, because uncertainty is exhausting once you've experienced stability. But here's the part most people get wrong. This isn't about her return. It's about who you became while she was gone. You didn't wait. You didn't pause your life. You didn't hold your breath. You grew. You detached. You reclaimed your standards. You stopped negotiating your worth. And that version of you is what she feels drawn to, not the man who hoped she'd come back, but the man who learned he'd be okay if she didn't. That energy is unmistakable. When she reaches out, she'll sense it immediately. The calm, the confidence, the lack of need. And it will confuse her because she expected you to still be where she left you. But you moved forward, and now she has to catch up. She'll test the waters, ask casual questions, bring up old memories, because she wants to feel if the door is still open. But you won't rush, you won't over-explain, you won't relive the past. Because you understand something now, access is earned, not assumed. If she comes back, it's because she finally understands your value. And if she doesn't, it's because she wasn't meant to keep up with the man you've become. Either way, you win. Because the moment you stopped needing her validation was the moment you became unforgettable. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. The strongest position you'll ever be in is when you genuinely mean this. I'd welcome you back, but I don't need you back. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. So let her think, let her feel, let her miss, let her realize. Because if she comes back, it will be with clarity, humility, and loyalty. Not because she wants attention, but because she understands what she lost. And if she doesn't, then remember this. The silence that changed her was the same silence that rebuilt you. And once you've outgrown someone, even their return won't be enough to take you back to who you used to be. So stay steady, stay grounded, stay moving forward. Because whether she comes back or stays a lesson, one thing is certain, you're no longer waiting. And that's exactly why she'll never forget you. And as time passes, something else happens that you don't see right away. She begins to question her own decisions. Not in a dramatic way, not with tears at first, but with quiet moments of doubt, moments where she wonders why peace felt boring back then and chaos feels exhausting now. She starts to understand that what she once called too predictable was actually emotional safety. What she once called too calm was actually maturity. And what she once overlooked was actually rare character. She notices how people react to you differently now, even from a distance. How your energy doesn't chase, doesn't seek approval, doesn't explain itself. You speak less, but when you do, it carries weight. You move with purpose. You don't rush connections. And that presence does something powerful. It reminds her of what she lost access to. Because when someone walks away from consistency, they don't feel the loss immediately. They feel it later when instability becomes their new normal, when they realize that attraction without depth fades fast, when attention without intention feels empty, and by then you are no longer emotionally available in the same way you once were. She begins to replay old conversations, not to blame you, but to understand herself. She sees where she hesitated, where she assumed you'd always be there, where she believed your patience meant weakness, not realizing patience is often the strongest form of control. And that realization humbles her. This is when her tone changes. If she reaches out, it's softer, less demanding, more respectful. She listens more than she speaks. She asks questions she never asked before, not because she wants nostalgia, but because she wants clarity. She wants to know if the door she closed is still unlocked or if she waited too long. But you're different now. You don't rush to reassure. You don't jump to fix things. You don't try to prove your worth because you finally understand something most people learn too late. The one who can walk away peacefully holds the real power. And that shift is what makes her more serious than ever before. She understands now that loyalty isn't about promises. It's about consistency when things aren't exciting. It's about choosing stability over impulse. And she knows she failed that test once. That's why if she comes back cautious, intentional, and grounded. But here's what matters most. You're no longer driven by the outcome. You've learned to be fulfilled without external validation. You've built a life that doesn't revolve around someone else's uncertainty. You've replaced attachment with self-respect. And that is what changes everything. Because when someone senses that you don't need them but would choose them, it elevates their value in your life. And she feels that difference immediately. If she wants a second chance, she knows she has to earn it, not through words, but through behavior, through patience, through showing up without conditions. And for the first time, she's willing to do that because now she understands the cost of losing someone who was real. And yet you remain calm either way. You no longer fear abandonment because you've learned to stand firmly in yourself. You no longer overthink silence because silence no longer threatens your worth. You no longer chase closure because you've already given it to yourself. And that's the version of you that stays unforgettable because growth changes the dynamic forever. Even if she comes back, she steps into your world, not the other way around. And if she doesn't, you don't shrink. You don't regress. You don't break. You simply continue. This is the quiet power most people never reach. To love without losing yourself. To detach without becoming cold. To move forward without bitterness. So if she returns, it's because she's finally aligned with who you are now, not who you were then. And if she doesn't, it's because life removed her to make room for someone who won't need to learn the same lesson twice. Either way, you are no longer the man who waits to be chosen. You are the man who chooses. And that's the shift that changes everything. So keep walking forward. Keep your standards high and your energy calm. Let actions speak. Let silence do the teaching. Let growth be your response. Because one day, whether she stands in front of you again or only in memory, she will understand this truth clearly. You weren't an option. You were an opportunity. And opportunities, once missed, rarely come back the same. That's the real reason she'll remember you. That's the real reason she'll return more serious, more loyal, or regret that she ever walked away. And that's the real power you carry now, not in waiting for her to come back, but in knowing that you'll be just as strong if she never does. Over time, you start to realize something quietly powerful. The situation stopped being about her the moment you chose yourself. And that's something she feels before she can explain it. People always sense when access to someone has changed, not because of words, but because of energy. The effort you once gave freely is now reserved. The emotional availability she once had without earning now comes with boundaries. And boundaries are what transform attraction into respect. She begins to understand that your absence didn't punish her, it revealed her. It showed her how much she relied on your presence to feel secure, how much she leaned on your consistency while questioning it at the same time. And when that support disappeared, she was left alone with her choices. That's when accountability enters the picture, not the kind that demands forgiveness, the kind that sits quietly and says, I didn't appreciate what I had when it was there. That realization doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly in moments where she expects your reassurance and it doesn't come. In moments where she wants to reach out but hesitates, unsure if she still has the same place in your life. And that uncertainty humbles her, because the man who once made space for her emotions without complaint is now calm, composed, and complete on his own. You didn't harden. You didn't become distant out of bitterness. You simply became selective. And that distinction matters. She notices that you're no longer reactive, no longer available on demand, no longer trying to prove anything. You respond when you want, not because you're afraid of losing her. And that shift rewires the entire dynamic. This is why if she comes back differently. She understands that loyalty isn't just staying when things feel good. It's choosing the same person when attention pulls you in different directions. It's protecting what matters even when temptation exists. And she's seen now what happens when those values are ignored. But here's the truth that completes the cycle. Even if she becomes everything she once wasn't, you are no longer the same man who would accept less than he deserves. Growth does that. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what you attract. It changes how you love. You're no longer attached to potential. You're attached to reality, to consistency, to effort that matches words. And whether that comes from her or someone else no longer defines your peace. That's why your presence feels heavier now, not louder, not demanding, just solid. You carry yourself like someone who knows he'll be okay regardless of who stays. And that confidence doesn't come from ego. It comes from experience. Experience taught you that love should feel safe, not uncertain. That connection should feel mutual, not confusing. That effort should feel natural, not forced. So when she looks at you now, she doesn't just see someone she once loved. She sees someone she underestimated, someone who didn't collapse when she left, someone who didn't chase closure, someone who turned silence into strength. And that realization stays with her. Even if she doesn't come back immediately, it follows her into other connections. She compares without meaning to. She notices what's missing. She realizes that not everyone offers depth, patience, and emotional maturity without conditions. And that realization changes her forever. Because once someone experiences real presence, everything else feels incomplete. And you keep moving. You don't wait for apologies. You don't wait for validation. You don't wait for someone to finally see your worth. You already see it. And that's the foundation everything else is built on now. So if she returns, it's not because you stood still. It's because you outgrew the version of you she once walked away from. And if she doesn't, then she was never meant to walk beside the man you've become. Either way, you no longer lose, because the real victory was never her return. It was your transformation. And that's what most people never understand until it's too late. Sometimes the purpose of losing someone isn't to get them back. It's to get yourself back. So stand firm, stay grounded. Keep choosing growth over attachment. Let your silence continue doing what words never could. Because one day, whether she reaches out with regret, clarity, or loyalty, or whether she never reaches out at all, you'll smile quietly, knowing the truth. You didn't wait to be chosen. You became someone worth choosing, including by yourself. And that's why, no matter what happens next, you've already won.